My guest in the studio for Newsfile this morning, John Abdullahi Jinapor, his MP Yape Kusogu. Thank you very much for joining us. Benjamin Boachi is Executive Director, ASEP. And Professor Godfrey A. Bokping is economist and Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana. At my extreme left is Andrew Ejapamesa. He is MP Second D. Thank you all so very much. So let's start with the matters as regards PDS, right? Okay, so I guess I can start with you, Ben, because you are the expert. You have been analyzing the situation. You have actually made calls on the government for certain things to be done so that the assets of ECG are not compromised. You're talking about some interdictions of certain persons and all of that. But first, how did this news come to you?
Yeah, I mean, I was not surprised, but I was worried because the signals...
You are not surprised?
No.
That there's an attempt to defraud
I was not surprised that we got into that position because the signs were on the wall. The way the process, transitioned along the line into secrecy and into limited information into the public space.
You're not surprised that we could be toying with assets worth how much?
18 billion from us.
18 billion.
Yes. Dollars.
United States dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but it's deeply worrying that we could give that asset out without proper security to ensure that the country's interest is at all times protected, because it's our asset, that we are giving out for someone to manage. So it comes back to how the contracting and everything happened and what Parliament approved and how portions of that contract were changed at some point to allow this to happen.
Because changed without reference to Parliament.
To Parliament.
That's a concern you have.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if you look at the contract that was sent to Parliament for Parliament's approval, the requirement for security of that 18 billion asset was that they should provide a liquid bank guarantee. Or
liquid bank guarantee?
Yes,
guarantee.
On demand. So
meaning what?
It means that it should be liquid. If ECG walks to the bank and say, PDS has not fulfilled this obligation, the bank should readily be willing to give the money to ECG. For the reason that we are trying to clean up the power sector, we want to be able to pay the generators, we want to be able to pay transmission, so that the doomsaw and the problems we have, the recurrent debt problems, are resolved. So ECG should not owe the value chain.
Just a couple of weeks ago, or two, just a couple of weeks ago,
yes, there were threats of
the IPPs complaining that they are owed in excess of, is it
700 million?
700, but it was 400 that was previously outstanding,
yes.
And that they were expecting 300 to be paid immediately, and there was no money to pay them.
So you have to stop that. And the essence of the guarantee is to ensure that there is always that liquidity to stop that from happening. So ECG walks to the bank and says, PDS has not given me money, so I want the money to go and pay them. And then you can go to PDS for them to replenish whatever has been taken from the LC or the bank account that provides the guarantee. So it's so explicit to ensure that we can continuously measure how PDS perform and sanction them appropriately when they deviate from that.
Okay, so I'll come to you. We'll deal with the substantive issues that you raise, even including this matter of changing some of the terms without recourse to Parliament. But can we get from the scratch, from the basis? The compact is a Millennium Challenge Account compact, and there was an opportunity to access $500 million, correct? So that we can improve our electricity sector. It is your government that began the process of accessing this compact. So walk us through a bit of the journey, how we have come to, potential fraud.
Sometimes I'm going to do exactly that. I try to be as precise as I can and as objective as I can. This compact is the MCC, Millennium Challenge Corporation. Bear in mind, we did Compact 1, and following successful completion of Compact 1, Ghana and Tanzania were selected. And so on the 5th of August 2014, Honorable Sekeke and then Secretary of State John Kerry signed the compact. It had to come to Parliament. That's the parent document for Parliament to approve in order for the compact to kick in. There are about 6 or 9 different projects under that. The ECG financial and operational turnaround is just one. There are other regulation, NEDCO, other investments. But the chunk of it, we identified the distribution sector as a major bottleneck because they interface with the public. And as we say, the value chain, if you don't have an effective, efficient value chain at the distribution end, it has a cascading effect on all the others, from the generators and all that. So we decided that let's invest in the distribution sector. We had 2 options, either a complete sale of ECG or a concession. We opted for a concession. If you want to debate that, that's another section. We went through the process starting with the RFQ, which is to say we are asking for people to pre-qualify. It's not everybody who would qualify. After RFQ, you go to RFP. Having been pre-qualified, now bring proposals. Competitive, open tender, let's get the best company with the technical know-how, the financial muscle to manage ECG. And from my records, this is a document submitted to the Mines and Energy Committee in March 2019. ECG's total asset was 22,479,000,000. That's a huge amount. If you look at this and compare it to other companies. So you needed a company, and with a workforce of about 6,000. Then we lost power.
But there's a clarity here. 22 billion plus United States dollars of
cedis.
Cedis. Okay.
Yes,
because is it or is it not that it is not all the assets we have given? 80%. Is that the case? Or we're giving all the assets?
I'll just explain that quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
We haven't even given assets per se. It's a concession. So take our assets, manage it, make revenues, and pay through the value chain and reimburse ECG what is due them.
Okay.
So ECG continues to remain the asset owner.
Right.
And that's why I'll come to those clauses.
Okay, proceed.
Then about 500 million, like you said, will be invested. But the concessionaire also would invest about 580 million over a 5-year period. Because you can't just take ECG's assets and just make money. Your duty is to also invest and ensure that you improve the operational efficiency. At that time, the losses were about 23%. That means that for every 100 CD of power that goes through the pipeline, 23 is lost. They were supposed to reduce it on an annual basis to about 8, which is the international benchmark standard. Like I said, we lost. NPP took over and they decided to change the concession a bit. They decided that they would change the duration. They decided that they would change it and bring so-called 51% local partnership. It's for government to make its decision.
So initially, the one coming in to assist us was supposed to be all of it.
No.
But the NPP's decision after a one power was that we will give 51% of the stake to Ghanaians.
No.
We don't want. Yes, explain that.
No. We insisted that you have a minimum of 20%. That was a threshold. You could go up.
Okay.
NPP says a minimum of 51.
Okay.
At that time, we had pre-qualified about 6 or so companies. We had categorized them into tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 based on a proper laid down criteria. So when they took over and they changed the structure, all the category 1 companies pulled out. All the category 2 companies pulled out. And we're left with Miracle of Manila and BXC. And for reasons that I don't want to go in because the matter is in court, BXC was disqualified. So we're left with the sole company.
BFC didn't live on its own.
No, they didn't live on their own. They were disqualified. They are in court.
All right.
That's why I said I don't want to get into that matter.
Okay.
At that moment, I began to ring and to sound alarm bells. That look, if you wanted a 51, then prepare a fresh document, open up the RFQ, so that they can then come and be looking for local partners anyhow they want it. Then you go through the process. That is what I proposed. And I issued a question statement, but that did not happen. Fast forward, we are left with only one company. So Miracle is selected.
And at the time, you were literally the only man in charge of the sector.
I don't understand. I had left power.
You had left. No, I mean, when you're saying the proposals, when you were making
the early stages.
Yes.
At the stage before you left, before your government left office, you were the only minister in charge of the energy sector.
No, no. I wasn't even a minister.
Deputy minister.
I was a deputy minister.
No, he was deputy, but he had no minister.
I had a minister.
You had a minister
Full
subsequently.
minister.
Okay, thank you.
When-
No, finance minister, but not energy. He was the only one left.
No, let me explain the architecture for you. Under our constitution, I can't act as a minister.
Okay.
Unless I'm appointed, so I go through vetting and I'm sworn in. I can't even sign certain things. I cannot be a cabinet member. And so in Ghana's architecture, anytime there's the absence of a minister or a vacancy, another minister is appointed to act. And in that ministry, a lot of people have acted for 1 year, 2 years. It's not a new phenomenon.
Okay.
So Honorable TAKEOVER was appointed as the supervising minister. So he was occupying 2 portfolios.
Okay.
And I was his deputy.
All right, good.
Admittedly, I did a lot more work under him because he gave me a lot of leverage and he had so much to do. So that is it. But he was the minister. So we've left office, and I'm saying that when I began to ring the alarm bells, I was then a member of parliament. I had left power. Then, as part of the conditions, this concession ought to come to parliament for approval. So I have a document here dated 3rd July, signed jointly by Honorable Boachi Ajako and Ken Foriata,
2018.
2018,
Right.
to appear before us for. That is where I can then peruse the issues and look at them critically. And I was looking out for some issues because we had 45 conditions precedent. All those 45 ought to have been met before PDS takes over. So it wasn't PDS. When they came, it was Miracle. And they said that, look, we want Miracle. We'll give it to Miracle. Then Miracle will go out and look for local partners to constitute that 51.
And that's what happened.
I thought that was problematic. So after Miracle was announced as the winner, some companies were incorporated. I thought that was problematic. Then when they appeared, I looked at the total list of companies. Then I realized that number 18 had a particular company, TG Energy Solutions. So I went and looked at the parent document and realized that they had the majority share in the Ghanaian structure, 18%. But in Mida's document, they didn't even have physical address, like office address. I've discussed that with my friend, and he says that every company that's incorporated will have an address. I said, that was curious. How come they don't have a physical address in your own document? More importantly, I realized that 6 of the conditions were not fulfilled at that time. But then the minister said that, look, this agreement, you are approving it subject to those conditions being fulfilled.
And which were these conditions? 6 of them.
16.
16 of them.
16 out of the 45. Let me give you the 2 key ones, because those are the ones important for me. The one with the bank guarantee. We approved subject to the placement of a bank guarantee, not an insurance guarantee.
Okay.
Then the other one was condition precedent 34. And in condition precedent 34, it has a specific article, Article 2.23G, which says that before, that is prior to the concession kicking in, the minister says that under section 2.23 of the lease and assignment agreement, ECG will be entitled to monitor the distribution system. It is a condition precedent to the transfer date, which means that ECG and PDS would have signed an article or protocol. So the ECG will monitor them on a continuous basis to ensure that they meet those conditions. As I speak to you, those conditions have not been met. And so it's not just about the bank guarantee. I'm more particular about ECG being able to manage and monitor its assets.
And you are saying these conditions precedent ought to have been fulfilled prior to the handing over of the asset to PDS in March of this year.
Yes.
Okay.
And you see, ECG says that transfer date occurred on 1st of March. 29 condition precedent were satisfied. 16 were remaining. So who took the decision to allow this concession to kick in, knowing very well that 16 conditions were outstanding? Who took the decision to convert a bank guarantee to an insurance guarantee? It's like an irrevocable letter of credit and a standby letter of credit. The two are not the same. And like my good friend was saying, one is active, one is more liquid. The other one could go through certain processes. And that is not what we approved. So if you wanted a waiver, what you should have done was to come back to the House and seek for that approval. Let's put that aside. I have another letter from the minister. This has been authenticated by the Minister of Information. He himself realized that on the 27th of March, the PDS structure was running into problems.
And this is the Minister of Finance.
This is the Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta. He writes to lawyer Akoto Ampao to restructure the PDS arrangement.
The Ghanaian entities.
Yes, but more curious to
them.
me is that I've realized that TG Energy Solutions shares has jumped from 18 to 28 without recourse to Parliament. That is problematic.
Okay, so what was this restructuring supposed to be? The 3 Ghanaian entities were supposed to be merged
into
as
an
one.
SPV.
Okay.
And bring on additional people.
SPV is special purpose vehicle.
Special purpose vehicle. And
Okay.
Prof will help us.
All right.
And any other Ghanaian investors from time to time. That's what the minister says. Restructure it, constitute it into an SPV, and then bring in additional people.
So that it becomes one.
It's already one because the company, the consortium is PDS. It has a board, it has a chairman, it has members from this shareholding structure serving on it. So that is one, except that companies constitute ownership of
And
that.
that was his concern, that they don't have to be in this scattered fashion. They should be one entity so that, you know, this is an important installation and we shouldn't
Well, I
toy
hold the
with it.
view, maybe you can guide us from a legal point of view, that consortium itself is virtually a special purpose vehicle.
Okay.
Because the consortium was constituted to achieve a specific objective. And so in some form or other, it is more or less a special purpose vehicle, except that my understanding of a special purpose vehicle is that when it achieves its aim and the time duration expires, you dissolve it. But I won't even get that. I'm saying that whether you wanted a special purpose vehicle or any other form, come back to Parliament and seek our mandate. You cannot go ahead and do that. In April, I wrote a letter to the President sounding the alarm bells that look, the guarantee in the form and structure in which it is was not fit for purpose. Because we also communicate with people. I wrote a letter. I issued 2 statements cautioning government that, look, this guarantee was not fit for purpose. I am baffled that it will take March, April, May, June, July, before you determine that that guarantee was fraudulent. I think that is too long a tenure for a government such as the government of Ghana in this modern age, in this information technology era, to take you all this while to come to this conclusion. And so where we are, I've heard the Minister of Energy, he's the supervising minister. I've heard his deputy. They were categorical that this bank guarantee was fraudulent. Now it's been suspended. That's why we gave a 5-point proposal or demand that, look, this current structure will not work for us. Even if you go and put another guarantee, I am strongly of the view that they don't have the capacity to manage the concession.
List your 5-point demand, just list that, and you take a breather. I'll go around and we'll return because they are very critical issues that you have been speaking to, and you are the one who can speak to them in the manner you do. So the list.
Okay, I hope I'm able to just let me try and record them. 1 is the termination. 2 is that we've proposed that the ECG board be dissolved.
So 1, you want this terminated
this very
rather than
agreement.
suspended.
No, we want it terminated.
Okay.
So that we all step back.
And number 2?
And number 2, we want the ECG board reconstituted.
Why?
Because we don't have confidence in the board. The board should have ensured all this. MIDA itself ought to be reconstituted. And let me put on record, MIDA is a creature of Ghana government. It's not a foreign entity. Ministers serve on that board. 3, because now ECG has taken over the management, we are proposing that the management be made to sign some performance bonds or contracts so that with KPIs, so you can monitor them.
Yes, 4.
4, any monies that PDS has collected and is still keeping, those monies should be refunded. And then 5 is the element of fraud. We hold the view that the law must take its course. But I've added a civil element
for fraud.
Yes, if that's what the minister, I've added a civil element, and that's critical for me. But I hold the view that the cash waterfall mechanism should be implemented immediately.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think it should be implemented
Thank you
immediately.
for the points you raised. Now, you know what? I'll keep you. I'll keep you. Yes, Ejapa Mesa. Now, we know that because you have an association as a director and secretary to the TG, what's the name? TG? Energy Solutions. Some matters have come up as regards questions of conflict of interest and so on and so forth. But suspend that for a while.
Sure.
And let us understand what went into the decision by government after it took over the process to go on this path rather than the original idea, and eventually dissipating the vehicle in a way that there are suspicions that, as the minority says, was a clear case of create, loot, and share. And these are party cronies who have just been brought together to come to do a vehicle. Some of the entities, they have no expertise, no experience whatsoever in the field, and yet they were brought on. And to make them better qualify, where you can't meet the conditions, they were lowered without parliamentary oversight.
Well, Samson, this matter requires a lot of cool heads because there's been a lot of red herring that has been thrown in out there purely for political purpose. You see, I hear my colleague John say that some variations, some condition precedents were converted without parliamentary approval. Correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, Samson, you are a lawyer. This is the agreement that was approved by Parliament. The condition precedents are contained on Schedule 2. And in there, it has 4 columns. Number, condition precedent, responsible party, consent required to waive. What does it mean? That Parliament itself, in approving the contract, gave power to the parties to waive, vary, or change some of the condition precedents. So if you say that the parties waived, varied, changed some of the conditions without recourse to Parliament, what are you saying? I don't understand. You see, look, the government did not depart from the original path as commenced by the NDC. The only thing that government did, he said here that the option that they chose was the concession, and the options are contained in the cabinet joint memo that was sent to Parliament by the Finance and Energy Minister. He said that the options available to government.
Please the page so that I can keep track of
Page 3.
Okay.
That they could do a management contract, it's an option. They could do a lease, or they could do a concession. And that government opted to do a concession. John himself admitted that that was the path that the NDC government had chosen. Now, they had indicated.
And we are referring to a document as submitted to Parliament
absolutely.
by Boache Jacko.
Yes.
And
right.
the finance
tracing
minister.
And the finance minister.
Background.
Okay.
From the beginning of the decision to sign on to the compact all the way to when the preferred bidder was selected through a transparent process. Now, what government changed was to change the percentage of the participation relative to foreign and Ghanaian from the 80-20 that the NDC had approved.
Foreign 80,
Absolutely.
Ghanaian 20.
Ghanaian 20. to a 49.51.
Foreign 49,
Foreign 49,
Ghanaian 51.
Ghanaian 51.
Right.
Rationale was simple. That transforming ECG was not rocket science. In any event, if there was going to be any benefit, why don't we allow Ghanaians to have more?
And more importantly, this is a key national installation.
Asset.
Right.
Absolutely. So as far as I'm concerned, it was a good decision. And they had to renegotiate with the MCC and MIDA to get that variation approved.
Okay.
The process continued, of course. People had done their evaluation and had decided to participate in the process. And so at a point when that decision was taken to make a Ghanaian interest in the PSP 51 as opposed to 20, they opted out. Now, we haven't been told that at that point new companies joined. What does it tell us? That all the companies, including the PDS that ultimately was selected, had been pre-qualified. They had met all the conditions that the NDC government had approved. Miracle-led consortium. That's what it is.
They had met 20 or so.
No, not the condition precedent.
16.
No,
okay.
we haven't gotten there.
Thank you. Okay.
Nowhere close there at
Right,
all. I'm
right.
talking of the process.
Right, I get that.
The Miracle-led consortium had met all the conditions to qualify to participate in the process. Had they been disqualified?
There was no miracle-led consortium. But when you are done,
whatever. I mean, like I said, you can dispute it all you want.
I'll note it.
And that is what it was. Some people elected to jettison the process because in their assessment, a 49% was not good enough. Fair deal. Some 3 companies remained. It is my understanding that subsequently one also exited, remaining BXC and the Miracle-led consortium. Because that's what is contained on the cabinet, the memo that was submitted to Parliament.
Right.
And Samson, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, the government of Ghana and the consortium of investors, led by Manila Electric.
That's Miracle.
Yes.
Yeah.
BXC was disqualified for reasons that are known to all of us. Now, they have gone to court, which is a legitimate dispute resolution mechanism available to them in law, leaving the Miracle-led consortium. John has argued that, as far as he's concerned, at that time, government should have, or at the time when government decided to change the shareholding to 51-49, should have abandoned the process.
Oh.
No, that's what you said. And restart.
I didn't say that.
You said so.
No, please.
Very well.
Abandon which process?
The
What did you mean? Because
what
you
I
had
said is that
suggested
once
so.
you proposed that you were changing it,
Yes.
you should have opened it up for fresh applications.
You should have started
Absolutely.
afresh.
Started afresh.
Exactly.
That's
So
exactly
you see,
he's
you have
using
gone
different
through-
words, but saying
you've
the
gone
same
through a
thing you
whole
said.
process to somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
You understand?
But
So,
don't forget
because people are
that
listening.
time was of the essence.
There you go.
This is
And we're
where we
going
are.
to lose
So
the
you
money
let's
if we
finish.
didn't rush.
There you go.
So let's
Okay.
come to the outtake.
Time
Right.
was of the essence. We had committed to conclude the transaction by a certain date. Okay? Now, government then proceeds and submits the agreement to Parliament in accordance with our Constitution for approval. Parliament then approves it, subject, of course, to the satisfaction of the condition precedents that are contained in the agreement. I've seen a letter from MIDA, for instance, which changed the PURC tariff setting requirements from a condition precedent to a condition subsequent. Correct? Is it legitimate?
You have shown in
There
You're shown in the schedule
Fantastic.
that the condition precedent, Parliament allowed the parties by consent to vary
it was
or
a
amend.
rhetoric question that
Okay.
I posed.
All right.
Can you mention that CP again?
CP4. There's a letter agreement.
No, the earlier CPU.
This
the
CP4.
one that
Condition
allows
precedent 4.
the parties to waive
CP4 is initial
No,
tariff.
it's a column. It's a column in the agreement.
This
I
CP4,
want the
initial
number.
tariffs.
No. It's every condition precedent is subject to variation.
And what they
Yeah,
give
the
to
variation
PDS.
bit is what I'm.
No.
This
It's
is
all
what
there.
they give to
it's,
PDS.
it's on there. I can show it to you.
Okay.
It's a column.
You,
in there.
you read
his
you read a
manifest.
bit of it. Just
The last
read
column.
just
I
read
know,
that
but
again.
I want
Let us
the
see
number.
before.
The part that
Let's
says
read that
the-
again.
the
Can you
parties
just can you just
No,
read
I'm
it?
saying that
Can you just
The-
read the portion you referred to earlier,
Yes, the one that says
which said the
can
parties
vary.
could consent to vary?
hold on. The schedule is in a table.
This is what
Yeah,
happened.
the two. I know the
No.
schedule.
Hold. The schedule is in a table form. And the table has columns
Yeah.
and rows. Number 1, 2, 3, all the way to 48, I believe. 45. Now, that's column 1. Column 2 is the condition precedent. Column 3 gives a responsibility to who executes or meets that condition.
Okay.
And column 4 is the consent to required to waive.
Okay. Can you read
So
that
each of
small
them-
portion?
Consent
Consent required
required
to
to
waive.
waive.
Yes. What do you have there? That's the heading.
So
you're
for
reading.
1, it says both parties. For 2, condition 2, it says both parties. For condition 3, both parties. Condition 4, both parties. Some it says ECG. Some it says Ghana. Some it says ECG. Some it says the company. Some it says both parties. So I'm saying that the parties to the agreement had the power.
Okay. So we can come and deal with this. Whether there was wisdom.
I want us to go there.
There is, if this is what it is,
Yes.
there's wisdom in doing so.
That is
Samson,
it.
you are a lawyer with extensive experience in corporate practice. Is this unusual? Is it?
I'm host.
Yes, you
Let's
are
go.
host.
Yeah.
But you see, it's important for us to deal with the issues as they are. Because others are suggesting and impugning wrongdoing on the part of government. Is it legitimate? That's the question.
Is this
And
what
so-
No, hold
on.
has
No,
brought the
but
government the
no.
problem it is now confronted with?
It's not saddled with any problem as far as I'm concerned.
Government says it is.
Hold on, I will deal with it.
No, the energy
Samson,
minister.
You see,
The energy minister,
And I'll be blunt. I
John
think the energy
Peter
minister
Amawu.
misspoke.
He what?
You know why he
He
misspoke?
misspoke?
You know why? Because I'm aware of an official government statement issued by the Minister of Information informing the people of Ghana that, look, gentlemen, this transaction that I executed, some information has reached me that raises suspicion of misrepresentation. He used specific words. Please, if you
Read
may.
the ECG letter.
It's in there.
Understand? The ECG letter.
And so, because of that, material breaches. So, because of that, I've suspended the transaction
Pending investigation.
pending investigation. So, what is the basis of the minister telling me that is fraud?
That's the sector minister.
I don't have a problem.
The information
That's what I'm saying,
minister.
that you see-
The information
Hold on.
minister will speak.
You see?
Will speak on the dictation of the sector minister on this matter.
Samson,
Correct?
Post that.
Uh,
Post that. The Minister of Information has held a joint press conference at which the Minister of Energy was present,
right.
providing us with an update of the status of where we are and indicating that government has set 1 month to conclude the inquiry that it has commenced. How do I, a trained mind, impugn fraud on anybody when the inquiry has not been concluded?
The energy minister has done so.
I don't have a problem.
He's not told
It's
us
for
that
him-
he's amended.
Samson,
He's amended that
Samson,
position. Yeah.
It's for him to answer.
Okay.
I'm saying that from where I sit,
Right.
I am working with the official position of government,
Okay.
which is the statement issued by the information minister.
So my
Now, Samson, please, you may ask the
my
question.
question was where you got to. Is it now fair to say that you brought this problem upon yourself
Not at all. How so?
because you decided to consent to waive a condition precedent.
But that's where there's the
which
error.
condition precedent would have assisted you to avoid the situation you have gotten into now.
I haven't said that the guarantee was waived as a condition precedent. I haven't said so.
Okay.
But it was changed.
I haven't, look, of course, we know, and I've seen the document in the agreement, which says that PDS was supposed to provide a bank guarantee.
Right.
Now, I've seen correspondence from MIDA, which refers to some request by PDS that they were having a difficulty raising the bank guarantee. And so, MIDA, which is the transaction owner, if you like, and I put it in quote, okay, to vary the bank guarantee and allow them to provide an insurance bond. MIDA agreed. Rightfully or wrongly, we can interrogate that. But then that insurance guarantee became the condition precedent. They met it. Post the meeting, and the meeting of that condition was confirmed by MIDA, the transaction advisors, and the lawyers. Was confirmed. So government proceeded to transfer the asset. Indeed, because of the timeline that government had to meet. And Ben, I'm sure you are aware that the final completion date was moved to September.
So you don't...
No, hold on.
Because of timeline.
Hold on. Wow. Was moved to September so that all the condition precedents that had been converted to conditions subsequent would be met before a final transfer. That is why the minister said that, look, yes, we have transferred, but we were entitled under the agreement to do a continuing due diligence, which has uncovered, okay, some issues that requires further interrogation. Where's the wrong?
So this was a case of continuing due diligence.
Absolutely.
Have you heard that before?
No, you see, well, you can condition subsequent. Okay.
So, see, you like you said, as a lawyer,
yes,
you would have gotten into transactions where you are buying real property.
Fantastic.
For your clients.
Yes.
They need you to assist them.
Yes.
You are saying that even with that, how much? Maybe
$100,000.
Yeah, that you would find it okay to allow for a critical condition.
Let me give you a typical.
To be waived.
Let me give you a practical
to be
example.
waived.
You buy.
Then you part with the money.
Samson, I'm coming. You buying land. You are assisting your client. It's giving you all his title documents. You've reviewed it. You have done some unofficial search. Confirms all the documentation as being what it is that the lease agreements that you have confirms. But of course, you want an official search.
Right.
Time is of the essence. Your client needs place to put his head.
I won't rush.
And so you exercise a judgment. And this was an exercise of judgment.
do that.
To say that, look, even though I do not have the official search, but my unofficial search and all the documents that I have gives me comfort. So proceed whilst we obtain the official search is a crime. You have committed a crime.
Okay.
So you see, Ben, look, and look, I
wait, I'll come to you. He paused shortly.
To some statements that others have made that yes, some heads should roll. By all means, if there's wrongdoing, why not? Why not? But the wrongdoing can only be established post the inquiry. We are not there.
From the documents we have seen so far.
Yes.
Including the communications that have come from Qatar and from the ECG. Your view is that there's no wrongdoing established yet.
Samson, if you look, yes, of course, I've seen the initial acute letter
right,
and the ECG letter.
Right.
That on its face suggests wrongdoing.
Okay.
Post that, we have also cited a letter from Akut saying that the insurance or the bond has been cancelled because of...
That's a letter after the suspension.
Yes, yes.
After the suspension.
Yes.
Take note.
I'm very much clear in my mind about the chronology. Very clear.
So
hold on.
So if it's not that serious,
let me put it in proper context.
If it's not that serious,
it is serious.
Would you proceed on a suspension?
Hold on.
In such an important contract?
That's why I said that if you look at the two documents, ECGs,
right,
and Akut's initial letter,
right,
it was important for government to act, and so government acted. That hey, there's no clarity here. I got legal advice. I got the transaction advisor's confirmation. I got the transaction manager's confirmation that these documents that you have presented meet the conditions. And so I should proceed.
Okay.
Based on that, I did proceed. But following that, some issues have arisen. So it's important for me to act to secure the national asset.
Thank you.
So I'm suspending. And so something, just the last point. Subsequently, the letter from Akut saying that premium payment that they didn't receive was the basis for their cancelling the guarantee. What does it tell us?
Okay, that's also important. We'll interrogate that. So now, Ben, so they have canvassed a number of issues. These are matters that you are too familiar with, and questions that you have raised over and again. What should we be paying attention to?
Yes, I think this insurance thing, we should properly situate it against the national interest and not mix the issues. For me, what is important to me with this revelation is that at one point, the national interest was sacrificed, to change it to insurance, so that the conversation about whether it is legitimate insurance, somebody misrepresented, it's not as material as the fact that what guarantees our interest for handing over the ECG assets to PDS was sidestepped. And I read to you, I mean, if you check the compact is very specific about MIDE's role in the section 3(1)(b), and I'll read that. It said that the government hereby designate the Millennium Development Authority as the accountable entity to implement the program and to exercise and perform the government's right and obligation to oversee, manage and implement the program, including without limitation, managing the implementation of projects and their activities, allocation resources, and managing procurement, and it continues. So they are clothed with the responsibility to advise government and ensure that the process was right. So if Parliament approves a document that says that you need bank guarantee before you hand over this asset, MIDA had no locus in advising government to go and take insurance, as we're being told here.
No, he's not just telling you.
Yes.
He's showing you that Parliament actually gave room for the parties to consent to waive, amend, and whatever. And that's what they did.
The reason why this agreement went to Parliament, and that particular instance, the waiver is not given to PDS, but it's given to ECG. It means that if ECG wants to waive that component, they will still have to go to Parliament, because it is the government is the owner of the asset, and ECG is representing government. So, and it changes the agreement substantially. So I'm surprised that we allowed this
It's not
waiver.
what you think. By the document that Parliament worked on,
Yes.
they gave responsibilities to those who are supposed to determine what.
Yes.
If you needed a waiver, who must consent to the waiver? So it is not, does not lie with you to now nominate to say that it has to go back to Parliament. When Parliament has chosen the people who must agree on that.
We can leave that to even lie, but even if you check, we haven't seen ECG waiving it. Are we clear on that?
Okay.
ECG hasn't waived it, and we were told that it's
No, I'll
needed.
quote what ECG says to you.
Okay.
I'll quote what ECG says.
ECG hasn't waived that. So we should now
quote it
go
for you.
and trace who actually allowed that waiver to happen. So that is the fundamental problem we have here, to have allowed insurance instead of, and in fact, MIDA holding the national interest should have advised government that insurance cannot replace that liquid guarantee that is required to ensure the national interest.
Let him tell us what ECG says about the waiver, whether it consented or it did not. Tell us that now. You would have your take later, but tell us that now.
I beg you, I have a lot.
No,
so
let's do that now.
Prof.
Let's do that now, right now.
No, could please let Prof.
Tell us what it is that ECG says that is different from, or suggests that it did not consent to waiving the guarantee in the manner that we are told.
Samson, just give me 2 or 3 minutes. I'll look for it.
Look for it. Yes, yes. No, Ben didn't finish. He's itemized
yes,
some
so
things.
I was just making the point that that waiver, I've asked ECG, maybe they can come out to confirm. They did not waive it.
Okay.
So whoever waived it, I mean, I just heard a point that MIDA advised government to go ahead and do that and change it.
Okay.
For
so not to interject, something with all due respect, not to interject. You see, if the terms of the bond.
No, but again, I also heard you
different from what is contained in the agreement. Then we may have questions to ask.
It's different.
But as far as I'm concerned, you see, Samson, and some of these things, some of us are in practice, and so we know. If an insurance company, A-rated by whichever ratings agency, provides a guarantee, it's as good as a bank guarantee.
No. Please.
Look, you see, Samson,
Okay.
Today.
Sorry. So your point is made. Thank you.
Why
Let's
can't
proceed.
you
do that? No.
Let's proceed.
Please.
Let's proceed.
How?
Let's proceed. Yeah.
Maybe I should address the point about MIDA realizing that the PDS
Professor Bopin will tell us whether they are the same or they are
PDS could not raise the bank guarantees. That at that very point, MIDA should have realized that these are not the right people to hand access to. It shows that they didn't have the balance sheet to raise guarantee. If you go to the bank, you have 2 options. You can say that I have assets, and based on these assets, I want a guarantee for my investment, or I'm going with my cash flow. You know, so if you have assets, if you are liquid, you could go and get a guarantee. So if they were not liquid, to be able to get the guarantees required for the takeover.
That was the point where.
Yes, that was the point where. So the person tells you, I don't have capacity to raise money, and it's okay, let me waive it and give you insurance. I mean, it doesn't really protect the national interest, and I think that is where the problem is, and that's where we should focus.
So from the onset, they would have exited.
Exactly.
Then we look for whoever is qualified
so
with the necessary financial muscle.
You tell MCC, we went through a process to get a capable company to manage ECG assets. We didn't get.
Okay.
And it's a human process.
And additionally, you may be suggesting, and I've heard you guys say, the process should be managed such that it doesn't bring cost to us. Absolutely. So that if at that point they were exiting because they didn't meet the conditions, you don't get to spend a dime. But at this point, if eventually you are going to terminate them, there may be the possibility that we may suffer hefty, compensation or damages.
Yeah, because you were waiving things along the way, to get us where we are today.
All right.
And the danger even is that now we are realizing that even the insurance bond that they provided is not legit.
Okay,
it doesn't even exist. So what that tells you is that for the past 4 months, that PDS has taken money, and they can almost 5 months. Yes, they can collect about $300 million a month. Okay, if you do an audit and you find out that you can account for $200 million, who are you going to ask?
That money is gone.
It's gone because there's no guarantee for it to fall on. Yes, you don't have to go and chase shadows.
Okay, now, Prof, can we begin from this point? Please hold on. Can we begin from this point?
I'm talking about expenditure. If there's
yes,
and committed the state.
He says that. Mr. Mercer says that. Look, insurance bond and the bank guarantee are the same, really, correct?
They are not the same.
They are not.
They are not the same. Look, this is a bit of an embarrassment to us as a country. First, because we have shown time and again as a country, we are incapable of managing our own assets. state institutions. We have partnered various institutions in the time past, foreign strategic investors.
Okay.
What happened? Talk about Ghana Airways, which eventually became a restaurant. Even that one, I'm told we could not sustain it, even as a restaurant.
It was one flight.
Okay, all right.
One aircraft that became a restaurant.
So then think about Ghana Water Company and what we have gone through and all of that. I'm looking at it from these lines. First, as a country, we agreed to give away ECG. Here, I'm not interested in which party was in government.
All right.
This was what we decided, that for the second compact, we had to cede this. We agreed. And then also, I think that the government did not substantially deviate from the original plan. And here I'll provide reasons, because the options provided that the previous government chose concessionaire is essentially the same part.
Okay.
There was something, even before the NDC left, there were concerns about local content.
Right.
And in this country, local content has been an issue, that the local content portion in that original discussion was too low. So I want to believe that the government, the MPP government, scale it up to about 51%, we are told, and all of that. I want to believe that in that process, it wasn't managed well. And I think government ought to accept where they got it wrong in terms of greater transparency, disclosure, and all of that, because parties, companies had entered the process. So once you vary this significantly, it has implication. Some may have to go back to their boards and perhaps get...
And not
I'll
that,
prove to
that
you.
is where you
done.
even pause
I have some point
and
of view.
recalibrate the whole process.
Yeah,
To
so,
say where we are, how do we achieve this goal we've set ourselves to? You know, without
We are saying
rushing
essentially what John was saying earlier, that you
yes.
start afresh.
not necessarily afresh,
even
but you
if
have
we
to
don't-
probably
Yes.
recalibrate it, because
Okay.
the time frame, if you have 5 years to implement it, you can adjust the times. Say the third leg, I'll pull some time.
And you
to meet
knew the implications of such a
first leg.
decision.
Okay, yeah, so Professor Bokpin, let's go. Yeah.
So we failed as a country to operationalize whatever clause we put in there about scaling up local content and all of that. And I think we should accept the blame and then apologize and then move on. Then also you are looking at the other angle, that because of the outcome as we have it right now, it doesn't justify whatever good judgment government thought or good intentions. And the outcome is such that right now, there's no way we can substitute the good intentions for good accomplishment, as we can see it here. And that is where I think that whilst we look at all this, and if you look at how MIDA was set up and the role MIDA was supposed to play in all of these things, I'm thinking that MIDA had failed us.
You put on autopilot.
Yes. I'm not too sure whether they were under pressure or whatever, but I mean, look, the reputational damage to us as a country is very huge. And I think that I would not blame government also for suspending the arrangement, because that's not a cancellation, because some evidence have emerged and all of that. But I'm thinking, for the sake of government's own integrity, I will lean a bit more towards the minority's call about some kind of investigation that is a bit bigger than what is being done right now, because of the role that the various parties have played in all of this. Is just to bring clarity to this discussion. Clearly, and I agree with Ben here, that somebody showed up and told you that we are unable to provide that bank guarantee. A company, an institution with such a huge asset base, I think we should have just killed it right from there. Even if that would mean it would delay our chance of assessing and all of that, perhaps that would have been a better option compared to what we have had to discuss right now. And that is where I'm looking at it from. then so you are looking at how the local content that went up to 51% was operationalized. And I am of the view, my considered view is that it could have been managed in a much transparent, a better way than it has been done right now. Because when you lift the veil and you begin to discuss the underlying issues, the ownership issues in all of that, I think it doesn't speak well of good governance. It doesn't speak well when it comes to transparency and all of that. So then also maybe my good friend.
So they fall on a reputable bank for the demand guarantee, correct? That's Carl Bank. That's what we are.
That's not what has happened. I don't think Carl Bank issued that.
Does Carl Bank meet that A-rated?
That's not their job.
Is it not the case that they then decided to divest sort of the risk and got in
Carl Bank cannot provide an insurance
and
guarantee.
done well too.
They cannot.
And done well too, seeking to divest the risk
That's not their
further.
job. They
Now
cannot.
went out to look for.
Look, it's down to I believe that the agreement sought to kill all of these things by asking for a guarantee A-rated. I mean, it's as simple as that. Rather than looking at this diverse. Look, in the first place, why would all these things come to be? Because PDS could not provide. If they had provided that, we wouldn't have gone through all of this. Because it's about capacity. It's about capacity. It's about ability to invest and scale up the operations of ECG to deliver.
Samson. You see,
yes. Okay. So sorry. We have spent quite a bit of time on this. We need to quickly find a way of wrapping up and go back to the connected issue of the energy excess matters. So, yes.
You see, why did we go into this concession? It's because we want a reputable company with the technical and financial muscle to take over from ECG. Because we already had a system. And we are saying they want a better system. And then this company is unable to provide a bank guarantee. And then government, because MIDA is government. Look, upon assumption of office, the government changed the chief executive. The government changed the board chair. Go and check the board of MIDA. It's government, ministers, and government.
The chief executive?
He was changed. Engineer Ura Safo was changed.
Yeah.
The board chair, Professor Sevadede, was changed. You understand? So if a company that is supposed to come and improve the system,
the lawyers were
cannot
changed.
provide,
Everybody else was
cannot provide a bank guarantee.
Yes, but
then you say that, look, I'm racing against time, so I'll waive my rights and allow them to go and bring something of a lower standard, which has even tended to be embarrassing. Then this government has a real problem. But something, you see, this 50% thing, 51%, there was a rationale. We had done some sounding and realized that the 20 will work. Once you did the 51, the winner of this concession was announced on the 12th of December 2017. It took them more than 6 months looking around to get that so-called Ghanaian partnership.
all of that added to the delay.
Added to the delay.
Time wasting in meeting.
So what are we talking about?
The timelines for the compact.
So I
So
talked
it
about
was
the
a
way we
populist,
operationalize it.
but unwise decision. Because look, he was my lecturer. It's the outcomes that tell you whether you did well or not. You can choose to go to America through the West. You can choose to go through the East. Once the globe is round, eventually Columbus will get to America. But it's how you get there and the outcomes. So if this is the embarrassing situation we are realizing, then you tell us that I had the right to waive my right. I had the right to waive my right. In any case,
I wanted to ask,
these were rights.
May I ask you the question then? At this point, the government has pressed a bit of a panic button, a very serious one. But have we been told that we had attempted to call on the guarantee or whatever it is, and
It didn't.
there was nothing, and it could not be honored?
Thank you. You don't need to. First of all, you must establish that the guarantee is genuine. That would then tell you that when you call on the guarantee, it will kick in. And that is why it was a condition precedent. And that's why I raise a point that for the government of Ghana, my brother, to spend 5 months Look, this is serious. This is serious business. And let's get serious with that. It took the government of Ghana 5 months.
I ask you that question also because, you know, the speculation about what people put in the local parlance of Edidija matters. That clearly there were some people or groups in the line who ought to have benefited and were sidelined. And this is the way to get some people out of the way and step in.
I have a lot of information.
Because,
I'm not kidding.
He has a question. He has a question about the second letter from Akut.
Yes.
Which is not about the question of the lack of capacity
or the validity
of their officer to sign or do this project, but on the question of lack of payment of the premium.
Yes.
Does that not suggest to you
Let me be blunt
that
with you.
the first issue they raised about lack of capacity doesn't wash?
No, it was. Look, that payment was not made. The $12 million that was supposed to be put there to trigger the process, that 12 million was not paid. Indeed, let me get blunt because you've brought this.
The money
PDS didn't have the
bank
money.
was not paid. Is that what you're saying?
PDS is how to work with a particular bank. I don't want to create problems for banks, so I won't mention that bank. PDS was supposed to invest a certain amount. As I speak to you, PDS has invested none. What they are doing is rather to feed on existing customers of ECG, take monies and turn it around, put it in that account to shore up. That is why they were not able to pay the IPPs. They needed to hold that money for a certain duration. That is why they couldn't pay the IPPs, and the IPPs began to threaten. Look, this matter is a serious matter. Anybody who has Ghana at heart, let's forget about NDC MPP. Let's ask, if Ghana were your property, if Ghana were your company that you intended building, is that how you would have handled it?
Okay.
Let's get patriotic sometimes.
You sought to accuse him, the minority.
no,
you
I
sought
don't
to
want
accuse
to
him
get
of
there.
conflict of interest.
No, I don't want to get there.
Are you satisfied now that there is no conflict of interest, even though he's secretary and director of one of the
I have
companies?
decided that on this program, I won't go there.
Is it that you won't go there, or that you will say prematurely? You came forward with this.
Or there isn't sufficient ground for you to go there.
I beg you.
So Japa, your explanation to that question is what? That they are saying that you came to Parliament, you sat on these processes for a company you were involved in, you didn't make a disclosure, and so you were in conflict of interest.
But Samson, you see, you and I know that conflict of interest is a technical, it's a term of art. Okay, you ought to be in a position of control, one, or that two, that you did not disclose that you have an interest and participated in a decision making. Now, all the documents that came to Parliament in respect of the Miracle transaction, okay, indicated that I was a director of TG Energy and secretary. So clearly disclosures were made. Now, in plenary, the allegation or the assertion is that because I did not wake up just when Mr. Speaker put the question to say that, Mr. Speaker, I have an interest in the company before the vote was taken. And I was there. I don't even recall, but it's immaterial. And so that constitutes conflict of interest. My simple response, Samson, was at that point, did I exercise control over Parliament to approve the transaction? Disclosures had been made to the committee, the recommendation and everything, the committee report that came, all included Andrew Mercer as company secretary director to a company that he had incorporated in June 2014.
But you voted for something you had interest in.
But Samson, that's why I said that two legs. It was deliberate, the distinction. Did I exercise control over, assuming that I voted, did I exercise control? In any event, if you have a conflict of interest or you are interested in a particular subject matter and disclosures have been made, are you barred from deciding on it? Assuming.
You must try to avoid even the appearance.
I agree, but
the appearance of the conflict of interest.
I agree with you entirely. That's why I said that you and I know the details of conflict of interest. And I'm asking you, as an independent arbiter in this matter, whether you think that my being present in Parliament constituted conflict of interest in this matter.
I'm moderating. I'm not an arbiter.
No, he didn't vote for it.
I'm not
so
educated.
He didn't vote. So because you can prove.
All right.
So he didn't.
All right.
Show that he voted. So he didn't vote.
The law is the minimum.
Yes.
So you should amend your processes.
You want to be able to avoid.
So what should happen? 1 minute each. 1 minute. The two of you. What should happen? We'll take a break on this note and return to the question of the energy matter quickly, and then we can go to the other matters of the budget. What should happen?
There should be a broader investigation into this matter. The results made known to Ghanaians, and then we have to maybe restructure this whole thing. If it turns out that it has to be terminated, let's learn our lessons. Let's put Ghana first. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the investigations are ongoing already, but I don't see MIDA and IFCT relevant in this conversation. I mean, they were paid $42 million to make sure that this process is credible, and it satisfies why we wanted to do this. So while that investigation is going on, I would think that those who partook in ensuring that the national interest was not properly dealt with should step aside.
Okay. So Kofi Bentel has been following this issue very keenly, and you know that he was one of those who were at the forefront supporting the PO, the electricity company staff union, who were all, agitating and asking for a number of things. He raises a number of questions, but he points to some way forward. One of the things he raises is that when the bidders pulled out, leaving Meralco as default, means we had no real evaluation. Yes, time was running out, but that also is because of the shambolic time wasting earlier and the mess caused by the 51%. As far as it's concerned, the 51% was a mess caused by grandfathering of staff was a problem. We went to court and asked that the whole process be relooked because of the many issues. Government said at the time that time was running and did not want to be in court. They prevailed on his client to withdraw. So the issues were not sorted out. Case was discontinued. Meralco showed little commitment from the beginning, and in the end, brought no money. Asking ECG to use ECG assets as guarantee for their own bond. COSECA, that's a group that he was with, issued a press statement and specifically stated that the interactions revealed that Meralco was not sufficiently resourced or committed to the process. The agreement was rushed to meet the MCC deadline, but that's because we wasted time earlier. Then he comes to some solutions. He says that, one, should retain the compact, change concession, divest government ownership, and appoint local management under contract. 2, retain everything, replace PDS. And finally, retain everything and ensure PDS compliance, i.e. they should pay up the capital and 51% holders should also pay.
The first option.
We'll take a break here. We'll be right back.
I thought you were going to get our take. It's okay.